Hi. So I wanted to make sure that I posted one more vlog before I left here. Just because, well, the lighting in my room is fucking awesome. My room is such a big size, so like I don't have like the space to do it. And I just thought that it would be nice, not just for hopefully other people, you know, that they can learn something from what I learned here, but as well I think everything is quite fresh right now and I'll remember it in a way now better than I will ever again. I moved here 11 months ago and it has just been one wild ride. There are 5 main lessons that I learned while living here and I wanted to share those with you. And those 5 lessons are, the first is don't let other people make you feel like you're crazy. You have to listen to your own critical voice, especially if you are self-aware. That's the first one. The second 2, so 2 and 3, is actually summed up in these 2 quotes that I received at the end of, after I helped mediate this like women's workshop slash like day retreat and led meditation and everything. And I was given these 2 quotes, and the first one is, I don't need a certain number of friends, just need a number of friends I can be certain of. And the second one, or the third one, bad at math. The third one is, caring for myself is not self-indulgence. Caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. The fourth lesson that I learned was really about the reality of relationships and how they really exist so much more on a spectrum than we've been taught to see them in kind of these very boxed ways. And the last lesson that I learned was holding people accountable for their actions. Now, the first lesson, which was don't let other people make you feel like you're crazy if you are self-aware and listen to your own critical voice. The self-preservation quote that I said, and holding people accountable for their actions, I would say it was all kind of wrapped up into one big lesson that I learned while living in the first place that I lived in here. When I first moved here, I moved into a house which had advertised on Spare Room that they were like vegetarian and earth conscious and they have a cat and all these things that you would think like, okay, these people seem to care about the earth, about animals, so maybe it would be nice to live with these kinds of people. I was living with an insane fucking person. Living there was honestly just atrocious. Like the place itself was like a hellhole. Such a dark energy. Like when I think back to being there, I can only remember darkness. It's so weird. So this lady, she was really intense, the way she spoke, the way she carried herself. She was friends with the landlord and whatever, and so I kind of gave her a bit of authority because I was like, well, she was already living here before me, she's friends with like the landlord, so I was like, alright, maybe I should try and clean more, try and be more earth conscious, like kind of stuff like that, because that was her big hang up. And through the midst of living there, it was like I was just giving away so much of my comfort and my necessary self-care that you create in your home, that you're supposed to have in a place where you call home. And I wasn't getting that, and I was feeling like just so exhausted all the time, and it felt like I never was getting enough sleep. And you know, it was really fucking hard, to be honest, especially with studying, reading like hundreds of pages each week, and to try and cultivate the mental energy to read all of that and deal with this woman and living in this very toxic environment was just atrocious. But I was like, okay, I need to live in this area because of where I'm going to school and whatever, and so I tried like figuring out, I was like, alright, be careful, more careful with your plastic. You know, maybe, yeah, you should like clean that a little bit better. But then it got to the point where it was just absurd, the things that this woman wanted. And I was doing it at the cost of my, honestly, like my peace of mind. And at one point, I just had enough. And one other girl who was living in the house with me, her and I, at one point, we came together and we were kind of like, wait, what the fuck is going on in this house? And, you know, there's this saying that says, like, you know, in every situation, there's, you know, like a silver lining, or in every bad situation, there's something good in it. In every good situation, there's something bad. And, me and this girl now has become one of my best friends, and, we got out. When you work at being someone who is self-aware, you question yourself a lot. And it comes in handy because you're able to decondition yourself from things that people maybe normally don't question. And so that's a part of my personality and who I am as a person that I appreciate. But unfortunately, when I have been in situations with people who are really intense, who are manipulative, who are mentally ill per se, I'll question myself too much because of what this person is saying to me and what this person is doing, and then it becomes really destructive. And I'll be like, oh, well, maybe I wasn't aware of that, or, you know, because I think what I try to do in every moment is to become more conscious than I was the moment before. And I think this is a notable characteristic, and it's something that I look for in friends now when I connect deeply with people. It's people who are genuinely working on themselves to be better than who they were yesterday, and whatever that means to them as well. And so I had a friend say this to me, and I don't think he realizes like how important it was for me to hear it from him. He was like, Tasha, you don't need to question yourself so much because of how much you reflect. And he was like, you don't need to do that. If someone's being a shitty person and you know it, trust yourself. And I was like, why? That's so obvious. That is so obvious, but why didn't I do it? I didn't do it for many reasons. You know, I think in my life, I've had a lot of situations where I was in relationships where I was with people who were really manipulative, who, you know, were very oppressive in the nature of the relationship. I think normally in society, I mean, we live in a patriarchal society, and I think women in general are not taught to foster a critical voice. I think we're taught to question ourselves a bit more. And I think that all kind of came into play in its own weird way. But I think as well, as someone who I really was a part of the New Age spirituality movement culture, and in that culture there is a huge kind of belief that whatever's happening in your life, it's because of you. It's because of something you're thinking, it's because of something you're doing wrong, you're not envisioning the right things, you're not having the right dreams, you're not like all this stuff. So I would even put more blame on myself without taking into account, you know, so many other factors, like another person. Spirituality is not separate from cognition. That being able to have your own unique perspective on things, to be able to be aware of yourself, where you can stand up for yourself and know when somebody is being a fucking asshole, is important, and it's an important part of your spiritual growth as a person in their own right. In the past, you know, I used to be too diplomatic. I was too understanding of other people and where they were at, and wasn't holding my own. When you go into this big, crazy world on your own, you have to fight for yourself, meaning, like, if you're not there for you, who the fuck is gonna be there for you? A key difference of something that shifted, like, while I was here, is that instead of me always blaming myself, I feel like I now have a more rounder view of a situation and not just zoning in on what am I thinking that attracted this, or what am I doing that this and this and I attracted this person, and like all these stupid things, honestly, that I used to think. And I feel so much healthier now that I don't do that, or that I've stopped doing it massively, because I was giving away so much of my personal power. And that is another, the other lesson with the quote that I brought up that said, caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it's self-preservation. It is. In the past, and still now, I have trouble like putting my own needs first. And I don't mean big needs, more like these small needs, little things, like moments that I know I wanted to have to myself. Like I would kind of be like, no, I would rather do this with this person, or kind of like spread myself so thin, spending time with different people or whatever. I would do that, and at the expense of what I needed to do for myself and whatever. But being here with the friends that I had and the amount of friends that I had was honestly quite perfect, because I was able to really still tend to the relationship with myself. And in doing that, it helped me to see that I was like, oh my god, having time alone for me is very important. And when I'm able to do that for myself, when I am with people, I have so much more to give. I have so much more to say. And being here as well, I became more particular with the people that I surrounded myself with, which was the other quote. I don't need a certain number of friends, but friends that I can be certain of. And before I moved here, I had gone through 2 experiences where I was betrayed horribly, and my trust in people was so damaged. I knew I wanted to come here for so many reasons, and I was gonna push myself to do it anyway, but I was terrified. I didn't really know, I was like, gosh, am I gonna meet more people who are gonna hurt me, and I'm not gonna be able to see, red flags or whatever. And the first few people that I met here, I remember feeling like so scared, but I pushed myself and I was like, girl, push, just go to the party, go to this person's house, go talk to them, reach out to them, and stop. Don't think that everybody's like that, because they're not. And the friends that I made here, I'm so happy that I met them, because they feel like family to me. And that doesn't always happen for people, and I don't think that they realize this, but they have made such an impact on how I feel in the world now, because I've found such incredible friends, and I'm eternally grateful for that. And I am a better person because of the friends I made here now. And I feel like I can relate to people in a way that isn't as anxious now because of these friendships that I was able to cultivate. Another lesson that I haven't quite gotten into yet is the reality of life and relationships. I think I used to kind of have a very limited view on, romantic relationships, friendships, marriage, and what have you. I now realize that there's so many significant people that come into our lives for so many different reasons. And it doesn't have to lead to a certain point in order for it to be significant. And our friendships, our romantic relationships, our relationships with people we meet momentarily or whatever, doesn't have to look a certain way in order for it to be meaningful. I had a teacher who said one of the most remarkable things in the world, I think, to this day. So somebody said, so Jung, he was in a polygamous relationship with his wife Emma and his spiritual wife, which he said was this woman named Tony. And in our class, we were having a discussion, and somebody asked, who won? Like, who won? And the teacher said, what do you mean, who won? And they were like, well, who did he love more? And somebody said, well, of course, Emma. He was married to her and he had kids. And my teacher said, having kids with someone and getting married to them doesn't mean shit. And I was just like, somebody said it. It also said, time is also not an indicator that a relationship is meaningful or that it's actually even significant. And I was just like, shit. Also, something that I realized while being here was that I am so fucking young. I'm 25 years old, and I don't understand why I was ever in any kind of rush to even date, or to think that any of my relationships could have led to something serious, to be honest, because how the fuck do I know right now? I change all the time, and somebody else changes all the time too. If they're in a healthy space, I think that you're constantly changing if you are in a healthy space. I think if you're stagnant, it's not healthy. And so I've kind of just like realizing, I was like, what is the rush? I need to live my life and get to know myself. I need to date a lot of people before I really know what do I actually want. And at 25, and with how much work I feel like I have to do, it's just something that's not on my mind anymore. It's something that I don't care about. It doesn't feel like it's even an aspect of my life anymore. And I cannot even begin to tell you how freeing it feels. I think that men and women alike are taught that we're supposed to be in relationships, that, you know, your life is not complete without it, that you need this, you need that in order to be this way, and it's like, really? Do I? I think the past like 4 or 5 months of my life have been some of the happiest times of my life I have ever had. And I'm very single. I don't think people talk about singleness enough. We always talk about relationships and how you can do this and how you can be a better girlfriend, how you can be a better boyfriend. I love it. It's like, but people don't talk too much about how to be happy and to be single. And if you're able to do that, I think that inherently it makes your relationships better. Because I think that the motivation behind having a relationship won't come from an unhealthy place. And these lessons that I learned here are something that I will always be able to keep. There's a quote that says, our only true belongings are our actions. And I think that when we choose to challenge ourselves and we act in a way that expands the way we see our lives, it's such a gift that we can give ourselves. I will never look back on my life and regret really hardly any of the things that I actually did, but more the things that I didn't do. That's something that is like I can't fathom to look back on my life and not think that I didn't take as many opportunities as I possibly could, or I didn't tell people that I cared about them, or that I didn't follow my heart. I know a lot of these things seem really cheesy to a lot of people, but to me, I take them very seriously. Yeah, I think the last thing I want to say is that I'm very grateful for every single person that exited my life before I came here. because it opened up so much room for so many new experiences. And leaving soon, I'm quite sad, and I'm really gonna miss my friends here. But I know that another adventure awaits me, that's for sure.